In this video, I wanted to cover a question that comes up a lot when you're bud tending, and that's going to be, what is the difference between a live resin cartridge and a distillate cartridge? Distillate and live resin are the two most common types of cartridges you'll find on the market, so people ask me nearly every day what the difference is between the two, and it's good to have an explanation ready to go when you're on the floor bud tending. To make live resin, the plant material has to be immediately frozen after it's harvested and kept frozen until it's processed. Normally, if you're going to harvest some flower, you would cure it and dry it out for a couple weeks. And in doing so, you actually lose over 50% of the terpene concentration. The terpenes are going to be what dictates the smell of the flower, as well as the direction the high will take, and whether that flower will be classified as an indica, sativa, or hybrid will all be determined by the terpenes that are in that flower. By keeping the plant material frozen throughout the length of it, it allows the extractors to obtain a much higher level of terpenes in that final end live resin. When you're making distillate, it really doesn't matter if the plant material is cured or live. Your main goal is to really extract just the THC from that plant material. So you'll typically find that distillate cartridges will test a little higher in THC compared to live resin cartridges, but they won't have a full spectrum of cannabinoids like the CBD, CBN, and CBG that you might find in, even if it's a small amount, in a live resin cartridge. Having that entourage effect of all the cannabinoids does make a difference in the overall effect and the overall experience. With distillate, the terpenes are actually separated at some point in the extraction process and then reintroduced later in the extraction process. Some people actually introduce botanical terpenes, which you might find like the apricot or pineapple flavor, or like bubblegum or something like that. That would be botanical terpenes. It's not a terpene that you'll find naturally in the cannabis plant, but botanical terpenes are added in by some companies to make those cartridges appeal to certain markets. With a pure distillate, it actually wouldn't really be classified as an indica, sativa, or a hybrid. It's just going to be distilled THC. That classification is going to come from the terpenes that they reintroduce into that distillate. Live resin, on the other hand, the terpenes all come from the original start material and are kept with the extract throughout the entire extraction process. You'll typically find that live resin cartridges are going to be priced a little bit higher than distillate cartridges, and one reason I like to explain for that is just going to be the costs associated with keeping that material frozen throughout its life. You have to invest in large freezers at your facility to freeze the material, as well as you'd have to invest in cold transport if you need to transfer that material from one facility to another to be extracted. So none of that is free, it all costs money, so that's typically one reason you might find live resin is going to be a little bit higher priced than distillate. Those are going to be the key differences that I really like to articulate to the customer between live resin and distillate. Everyone has their own preferred smoking method. Some people really like, high numbers and just want the highest THC, and they might choose distillate, but it's still good to be able to explain the difference between the two. I personally find live resin is typically a little bit higher quality of an extract than distillate, but of course it can vary from brand to brand and depending on the starting material and whatnot. So it all depends and it's all subjective. I do have another video where I explain the difference between live resin and live rosin, and that can also apply to cartridges as well. So I'll link to that in the description. That could definitely help you guys out while you're bud tending and selling live rosin cartridges as well. I'm also just going to be making videos about questions that come up a lot while I'm bud tending, so if that's interest to you, give me a subscribe. That would be fantastic. I appreciate it. Thank you guys.